So without further ado, please join me in welcoming to the stage under the direction of Miss Madeline Clark, the King George Middle School Guitar Ensemble.
All right, good evening everyone, and welcome to the Guitar Ensemble concert, as he mentioned. So this group in front of you is a semester-long class that's offered to 7th and 8th graders here at King George Middle School. So it is only a semester, so the majority of the students on the stage have never played guitar before, they've never read music before, some of them have never even played any kind of instrument before. We had a lot of snow days at the beginning of this semester, I'm sure you all remember, so it was kind of a rocky start with all of that school missing, but they have made major strides since the beginning of the semester, and they've had a lot of dedication, so I'm really proud of them for that. All right, so during this time, we have learned how to read music, we have played as individuals, we've played as groups, and we've learned a lot of different types of songs. What you just heard was one of the first songs that we ever learned. It was called First Time Around, which is made up of 2 different parts, or groups of students on the stage playing at the same time. And it was also one of the first songs from our book. So again, that took a little while to get to because of the snow days, but they've done an excellent job this semester. All right, so our next song that we have for you adds a 3rd part happening all at the same time, and it's called A Minor Thing, and we hope you enjoy. All right, so in this class, we've primarily focused on 2 different types of notation for guitar. The first one is tablature, or tab for short, and then we have chords. So tab is when you're playing the melody or the harmony of a song, usually just 1 note at a time, which is what you are recognizing from a song. And then we also have our chords, which is involving multiple strings being pressed down at once, which a lot of them found a little bit more challenging than they originally thought. So those first 2 songs were all just tab with our melody and our harmony of those songs. And our next one, we have a few students who are going to be accompanying the melody with chords as well. Our next song is called La Llorona, which is a Mexican folk song. and we hope you enjoy. All right, out of all the songs we learned this semester, I would say that they would agree especially that was one of the harder ones that we learned. It involved going all the way up to the 10th fret on the guitar, which is really far up there if you're not able to count super quickly. So I'm really proud of the work that they did on that one. Before we move on to our last song, it goes by really quick. This has been a lot of fun. This whole semester really has been great with all of these students on stage. I just want to say thank you really quick. Mr. Cheatham, who you just saw, Ms. Connor here at the middle school, they have done an awesome job supporting me and these students this whole year, as well as Mr. Morrison over at the high school, just being really supportive of these music and guitar students. I also want to thank Dr. Nice, Ms. Wood, Ms. Taylor, Mr. Steyer. Without them, without their support, we wouldn't really have the arts here at the middle school, so I'm definitely appreciative of that. So yes, give them a round of applause. I definitely want to say thank you to these students on stage for working with me all semester. We've had our ups and downs with all the snow days and crazy scheduling things and these SOLs recently. I'm really proud of the work they've put into just this little elective they thought they were taking, and it's become this huge thing, so thank you guys. And then thank you all for joining us, not only tonight, but just in general, supporting your students. I'm sure some of you guys had kids bring guitars home in the beginning of the semester, and you were like unsure of where that would go, and they've just made great progress so far. So thank you guys. Our final selection for this evening is Blowin' in the Wind by Bob Dylan. I would say, personally, for me, this is my favorite one to work on. I think some of them would agree. Yeah? Some of y'all. We have a lot of fun with this one. This is another one that has chords accompanying the melody, and they worked really hard on this one as well. So we hope you enjoy Blowin' in the Wind. stage under the direction of Mr. Kevin Cheatham, the King George Middle School Jazz Ensemble.
All right, good evening and welcome to our spring band concert. We're so grateful that you've joined us here for a night of music. The band that is here in front of you is our King George Middle School Jazz Ensemble, or as I like to call them, Earth, Wind, and Foxes. If you appreciate that joke, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. That first piece that you just heard, when you have a jazz band that has flutes in it, you kind of have to play a Latin groove thing. So that was a piece called My Little Suede Shoes, as made famous by Charlie Parker. It featured a little solo in the trumpets as well as our saxophone section. Let's give it up for them. They're playing. The next piece that this group is going to play for you is going to be our jam piece for this program. If you look at the program, you will see that it is called the Funky Few. That has gone through about 7 different name iterations, and we landed on the Funky Few. One other thing that's cool about it is you will see that it is written by Devin Archer, who is a King George High School student. This is a piece that he wrote, and we've kind of adopted into our regular pieces that we play. We're going to talk more about Devin later, but I do want to say thank you to him. I know he's here in the audience for this piece that he wrote for us. The next piece, or in this piece, this is our jam piece, so it is going to feature a lot of solos. Every student up here is going to take a quick solo. This is their opportunity to improvise. Nothing that they're playing solo-wise is written down. They're making it up on the spot. But the thing that will start and end it was written by Devin. So we hope you enjoy the Funky Few. Thank you very much. Again, that was every member of Earth, Wind, and Foxes, again, playing a piece written by King George High School, Devin Archer. We're very grateful for his work in giving us that piece and for all the kids having solos. The next piece that we're going to play for you might be a little bit more recognizable for some of you. There's a piece called Take the A-Train. This piece was written by Billy Strayhorn and made famous by Duke Ellington. And basically the idea being Duke Ellington was trying to give directions to Billy Strayhorn on how to get to his house in New York City. And he used to always say, take the A-Train, and you can pretty much figure it out. So referring to the subways. And it became so prolific that Billy Strayhorn made a whole piece out of it. And again, made famous by the Duke Ellington Ensemble there. This one's going to feature solos by Eli Nicoletti, Sandy Miller, Renee Rivera-Reyes, and Lily Hickman. And we hope you enjoy Take the A-Train. Awesome. Before we move on to the last piece that this group is going to play, I did just want to let you know there will be one quick set change between this band and the next band. We're going to make that as fast as we can, and that's the only one we have to do for the rest of the concert. So if you'll bear with us, we will do our best to get that done. The last piece that this group is going to play is a piece called Hey Elephant, and that's kind of a silly title for a piece. And the story goes that the composer had a little son who loved to go to the zoo, and his favorite animal was the elephant. Whenever he saw it, he would always go, "Hey, elephant!" Kind of like that. That rhythmic, kind of sing-songy. We know how young children are. And the composer kind of took that inflection and turned it into the melody or the head that you're going to hear for this song. It's going to start with a little like, bah, And I know you didn't come here to hear me sing, so that's all you're going to get. But you'll hear that as we go through it, and it's a pretty hip piece for us to get to play, and it will feature solos by Aurora on trombone, a Maddox on tenor, and a Rene on trumpet, and we hope you enjoy Hey Elephant.
Please welcome to the stage, under the direction of Mr. Kevin Cheatham, the King George Middle School Beginning Band.
much. This group here in front of you is now the King George Middle School beginning band. This is our only band that is really a mixed group of grade levels, 6th, 7th, and 8th, all in the same group. This is also the group that, for the most part, none of them had really played an instrument before August, and then now they're up here doing this and kicking butt and doing some awesome music for you tonight, now that they've been together for a year. What's interesting about this group is that once we finish this year, if they do continue in band, they will be spreading and going to their respective groups, so they do kind of dissolve, which is sad, but we have a great year together, getting them primed and ready to jump in with the other ensembles that we have here that you're going to hear later. The first piece we played for you was Ascension, which is a fanfare. It's a great concert opener. The next piece we're going to play, I'm going to hand it over to one of our other conductors, Miss Connor. This is a piece that's a little slower called Daydreams, so please join me in welcoming Miss Connor.
Thank you. Then next, we are going to finish up our program with a piece that's just a little bit more lively, and we're going to welcome Mrs. Madeline Clark to conduct Shadowfire.
And before we begin Shadowfire, I just want to give a quick shout out. They didn't know I was going to do this, but Liam Miller and Fia Means are joining us in the beginning band. Both of them were in the district band this past year, and they offered to step up because they heard and played this piece at the district band event, and so they stepped in with our beginners to help out in the percussion section. So thank you, Liam and Fia.
Please welcome to the stage, under the direction of Ms. Gava Connor, the King George Middle School 6th grade band.
Thank you. Our first number was a march called Andalusia, and our next selection was written to reflect the composer's attempt to slow down. Each day at twilight, he would take this time. He says, the piece, At Twilight, captures the reflections and rest that I experienced during this time without the interruption of cell phones, email, or any other connection to the outside world. We hope that you will be able to enjoy a few moments of quiet tranquility as we present to you At Twilight. Now this is the one that is their favorite, that every day I had to hear them, no matter what we were playing. This is what they would be playing before we got ready to go. So we hope you enjoyed their favorite hand clap. I wanted to say a few thank yous before we play our last piece tonight. I want to thank my colleagues, Mr. Cheatham, who's playing tuba for us tonight, Ms. Clark, and Mr. Morrison, our high school director. They are the best colleagues I could ever work with. They make my job a lot easier and a whole lot more fun. I couldn't do this without you. I'd like to thank my husband, Norman, for putting up with all of the band director hours. He's a champion. Thank you, dear. I love you. Thanks for being patient and putting up with everything. I'd like to thank the students for all of their hard work. As you can see, they have come very far this year. They have worked really hard, and they are playing at a wonderful level. I am very pleased with the progress that they have made. I want to thank all of you as parents for supporting your children and supporting the arts here in King George. We couldn't do this without you. As we round out our program tonight, we're going to play a little Spanish dance for you called Daña de España.
Please welcome to the stage, under the direction of Miss Madeline Clark, the King George Middle School 7th grade band.
Love you, Andrew.
So that first piece that you just heard is called Summon the King, which is a celebratory fanfare for band, which featured, of course, that fanfare feeling, just like Miss Connor's first piece. And so we have a smooth flowing section in the middle. I always say, and I think some of them agreed with me, it kind of sounded like kind of a graduation or some kind of celebratory, beautiful section in the middle there. So we hope you enjoyed. Our next piece, we're going to do our slow piece of the evening. If you'll notice the theme, our slow piece is called Tranquil Sky, and it depicts just that. So we hope you enjoy Tranquil Sky. Just like earlier, I'm going to say a couple thank yous. First, of course, to Mr. Cheatham and Ms. Connor here at the middle school. Like she said, they are incredible coworkers to have here, and we are incredibly lucky to have a system with the three of us working here at the middle school, as well as Mr. Morrison at the high school coming out and supporting all of these students. So thank you to them. Next, of course, I want to thank these students for working with me this year. They have been really, really awesome, and they've made great strides since last year. I'm sure some of you are remembering when some of them were in 5th grade to 6th grade to now. Incredibly proud of them as well. So, great job, guys. And of course, thank you to you all as well, those of you who are in the crowd who have a 7th grade student here on stage. Thank you for continuing to support them when they bring those instruments home to practice and continuing to show up to these band concerts and events for them. I appreciate you, and so do the rest of us directors. Our final piece is called As Spirits Soar, which is another really, really awesome epic piece that we really hope you enjoy. So this is As Spirits Soar.
Please welcome to the stage, under the direction of Mr. Kevin Cheatham, the King George Middle School 8th grade band.
you so much. This group that is here in front of you now is our 8th grade symphonic band. This is the group that is made up of our oldest students that have been doing this the longest. And this group has had a whirlwind of a semester. They have done so many performances in different programs. This is about the 5th program they've done this semester, which is like really cool, but also really scary. This program that we're doing tonight has been put together in about 2.5 weeks because we had to do a whole bunch of other performances leading up to this. So that's been really fun, but it's also been a little bit of a challenge making sure that that gets done. This group also went to Viboda State Assessment this year where they were judged based on a performance that they gave and got a superior rating, which we're extremely proud of them for. So they've been all over the place playing at the elementary schools, and it's just been a lot of fun putting together this many programs. Tomorrow we start a brand new one, so they don't even get to rest even at this point. The next piece that we are going to play for you with this group, this is something that's been in the work in my head for about 2 years now, and in practicality for about a year. This is actually my 10th year working at King George Middle School, and more importantly than that, this is the 10th year that Ms. Connor and I have been kind of teammates working here at King George Middle School together. And so I wanted to come up with a way to celebrate the fact that her and I have been working together for 10 years. And the other cool thing we have here in King George is we have a high school student named Devin Archer, and I know Devin's here. Devin, if you want to come up on stage for a moment, I know he's out in the audience, that'd be fantastic. Devin does some writing for us. He writes compositions. You heard a piece that he did with the jazz band earlier. And so I kind of saw all these cool things coming together in my head where we could have a feature piece that would feature Miss Connor, and we also have an awesome oboe player in Miss Clark, as well as feature Devin in the arranging of this piece of music. So it's a really cool King George moment where we have all of these different parts coming together. And when I was thinking about a piece that we could use, we had just done a marching band show based on Dvorak's New World Symphony, so that was kind of front of mind. And I knew that the second movement, the largo of that piece, had this really extended woodwind feature, and more importantly, that piece was public domain, so we didn't have to pay for the rights for it, which was very important. And so Devin and I met about a year ago, and I got him to working on an arrangement. This piece is originally written for orchestra, and so he, on his own, went and rewrote it for a middle school band to perform, featuring the flute and the oboe solo that you're going to hear. That presented some challenges because they're not an orchestra, so all of a sudden, you know, they, for the most part, have to breathe, and so string players don't have to think about that, so that's a challenge. Making them play in ways that are similar to string players has been kind of a challenge for us, but in a good way, and it's been a really fun challenge to take on. And Devin did a fantastic job in writing this, so I just wanted to bring him up on stage and have all of you recognize him for his awesome work. So we are going to play this piece, and it is also going to feature our 2 soloists, if we can introduce them as well, Ms. Connor and Ms. Clark on flute and oboe, respectively. So this has been a challenge for us, but it's really fun, and in celebration, again, of 10 years working together, Ms. Connor and I, we put this all together. So we hope you enjoy an excerpt of the Largo from the New World Symphony by Antonin Dvorak, arranged by Devin Archer. Thank you. awesome. What a cool moment. That was a lot of fun. So thank you again, Devin in the audience. We're very grateful for the work that you did on that. Thank you very much, sir. I'd also like to take a quick moment while they're recovering and getting set for our last piece here, just to again thank our administration, Dr. Nice, Ms. Taylor, Mr. Steyer, and Ms. Wood. I know I saw at least Mr. Steyer here. Thank you so much for the support that you guys give to us on a daily basis and allow us to have the awesome program that we do. We did just find out this week that King George County as a whole has again been recognized as a best community for music education by the National Association of Music Merchants, which is really cool. That's not just us, that's the whole county. I'm the one with the microphone, but I don't get to take credit for that. That's the whole county. But some great things are happening here. I also want to take a moment to thank my high school helpers. You've seen them kind of running around, moving things, as well as our other 3 band directors. You've heard a lot about how great they are and how much better they make this job and how fun it is to work with them. And I'd also like to take a moment to thank my lovely wife, who wasn't able to be here tonight. But again, all the support that she gives me helps me be better for your students. So I'm very grateful for her. And students as well. It's been an awesome 3 years. We've only had a couple of 3-year classes at this point since we added 6th grade. So it's been a tremendous honor to work with these kids every day for 3 years. And I always joke with them, they've started to figure it out. They really sound good. They know what they're doing, and then they leave. They go to high school. It's not fair. But I'm very grateful to you all as well. Thank you for your work. The last piece that we're going to play, and then we're going to get you home. Since, again, thinking about 10 years in King George, I was thinking back to some of my favorite pieces that I've gotten to do while I've been working here, and one of them was Fire Dance. This is kind of a big bombastic piece that we get to play. And it's one of my favorite ones I've ever done, so it seemed an apt way to close the concert. So we will play Fire Dance. You will get home safely. Thank you very much for being here tonight. as before any of these students go, Hunter, if you can go ahead and hit the lights. I forgot one thing that'll take me 10 seconds. I'm so sorry. I know. Because Miss Connor and I have been working together for 10 years, there is an award involved that I have gotten for her. And you guys can sit, by the way. And this is called the St. Gaiva Award, which is presented to Gaiva Connor for 10 years of putting up with Mr. Cheatham's nonsense. This is being awarded